G'day mates, it's Doctor here, and in our last video we talked about the evolution of the Yu-Gi-Oh card game and if it's evolving too fast. But now we're going to be talking about the anime side of Yu-Gi-Oh! And why the anime itself may be evolving too fast. So, what we're going to start off first, as before, this is completely unscripted, but I do have several dot points to talk about. So, with Yu-Gi-Oh! It's not just trying to tell a coherent story, but it's also trying to promote a product. Now, because the studio has to release an episode every year, you can't imagine the stress when trying to create character development, a coherent story, but also trying to sell us the new cards. Like, we don't know if it's Konami that invents the new cards and they get the studio to animate those cards into the anime, or if it's the other way around where the studio comes up with the cards that they showcase to Konami, I should say, and let Konami decide, we'll have this card released, that card released, and also the real-life exclusive cards, like the World Legacy cards in this generation. So, do you have any thoughts on it, Greiken?
So I was just thinking that they must have some sort of script, possibly years in advance, every time that they're, probably, 3... series in advance, because it's, as you say, it's a product. They have to keep trying to sell it, and as we discussed in the last video, who knows how that would impact the actual sales of the product. They write the story. They probably have a very basic outline for the story. It is a very basic story when you think about it. Like, usually there's a protagonist of some sort, lots and lots of rivals, some general either mythological or like technological setting, that's the cause of all the conflict, all the card games. Then it usually has been now broken down into either two main series that last 80 episodes each or something, or 3 series even, but rarely it goes past that because they're now pushing like a 3 to 4 year limit on each series and generation of Yu-Gi-Oh.
It's about 130 to 150 episodes each series, I believe. But there's also the stress when you realize that each episode has to be 20 minutes long, and that's something I noticed when watching Dragon Ball Super, when the movie, like Battle of Gods and Resurrection F, they've just flowed so well, whereas if you look at how they were changed in the TV show, it was just awful, and that's another thing when you have, if a movie, I feel like the run time, I should say, it can be anything from an hour to hour and a half, but with TV shows, every episode has to be fit under 20 minutes, so that could add more stress to the writers of when to start an episode, when to focus on which characters. I heard that Arc 5 was a mess, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns Season 2 was quite directionless, and we're going to get to that at the next dot point when we get there, but I can't imagine, trying to write the duel, write a story. We don't know if they have multiple teams working on different episodes at the same time. It would make sense if this team will focus on, Jack Atlas, and this other team will focus on Yusei Fudo's dueling in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds.
Yeah, I would be curious to know how they set that up. And you do tend to notice, with certain cards, that they do sort of, complement each other. One would be perfect against the other. And, especially with either anime exclusive cards or cards that are, very specifically designed for a purpose.
Yeah, and speaking of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, I know one behind-the-scenes trivia is that, did you know, Greiken, that Crow was going to be a Dark Signer?
Oh, really?
Oh, I guess you didn't know that. So Crow was going to be a Dark Signer originally, but because his Blackwing archetype became so popular, like both in Japan and outside of Japan, they decided to keep Crow as a recurring character even for season 2. And that's why there was a bit of inconsistency with like there was a flashback with the 5 Signer Dragons originally, and Blackwing Dragon wasn't one of them. It was who's a guy, Leo, with his Morphtronics and Power Tool Dragon, that there was Live Stream Dragon. But yeah, because of the popularity with Blackwings, like, well, if people really like Blackwings, that probably means they'll buy more Blackwings. If like, I mean, it's like fan service, because giving the fans what they want, and it's also for the business side that if fans are happy with products, and they'll inevitably buy the products.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that, and it did always confuse me that Crow became a signer later on, and that Blackwing, never did appear in any of those flashbacks. So, like, they probably maybe do, like, make changes to each series as it goes, depending on what they think will be popular or a good choice. I don't think that there's, like, a whole lot of, creative difficulties with Yu-Gi-Oh! Because, as I said, and you probably would agree with me, they do have rather simplistic stories. In the end, the character motivations are very basic. Like, I'm not completely criticizing it, but it's not exactly like heavy storytelling. And as you say, it is trying to sell a product.
Well, I would argue Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrain Season 1 had a really good mystery to it with the Knights of Hanoi and what they call the Lost Incident, where these children were kidnapped, taken to a hidden facility where they built the Ignis, or these artificial intelligent creatures in the computer world. And I was very hooked onto it throughout Season 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains, and I think it did have a good conclusion to it. But yeah, I was pretty intrigued with the story, though. Another thing with the anime was the flashback sequences, because in Season 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains they had 4 flashback episodes, and that was like between every 8 to 6 episodes there would be a flashback, and people just hated it. Like, I hated it myself because I'm looking forward to what happens next, but they do a recap episode, probably for the writers to have more not screen time, just time in general to think of what they're going to do next for the story.
Well, also probably just to catch the audience up if they haven't seen every single episode.
Yeah, but we're talking about between like every 6 and 8 episodes.
Yeah, that is frustrating.
Like,
I can imagine. Season
2 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains, I guess, in a way, they listened to the feedback, but there was only one flashback episode, and then there was another flashback, but like at the very end, so after everything was said and done. But I guess without those flashbacks, like the writers just didn't know what they were doing, and that's why Season 2 was kind of a mess. But that's also something else with Firewall Dragon being a signature card, but because it created so many problems with the tournaments in real life, that they kind of wanted to ditch Firewall Dragon. But I think what they should have done with that card in the anime is to like have it destroyed, basically, or have it taken away from Yusaku, the main character. Like, give Firewall Dragon a proper story. Like, I guarantee that Firewall Dragon was meant to play a much bigger role, but it had such little impact in Season 2, and even the boss monster at the end, Firewall Dragon Dark Fluid, like, it's just Firewall Dragon by name and looks. It has nothing to do with the story or anything, really. So
yeah, like it's just to me it's just a Stardust Dragon rip off, but it would have been a good companion card to him, I feel, other than like all the millions of code talkers that he uses.
Well, if you notice with Firewall Dragon's head, it kind of looks like the power button on the computer or my laptop here.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of like that detail, but yeah, like the anime clearly needed more time, and as we were saying in our last video, that they may be rushing the products with the cards, and they don't know which ones would be more more broken or all that. Like they probably didn't realize that Firewall Dragon would be so problematic.
No.
With like I know it easily allowed extra linking, and even before then, like having two Firewall Dragons on the field was completely busted because during either player's turn you could use Firewall to bounce an opponent's monster on the field back to the hand. So having two Firewall Dragons on the field, well, what can you do?
Yeah.
Like it's just one of those cards that says you can't play Yu-Gi-Oh. I guess to be fair, we're kind of going back into the card game here, but there was a recent card called Appaloosa the Bow Goddess, where for every it's a link 4, and for every monster used to link summon into it, it gains 800 attack. So it could have what's 4 times 8? That would be 3,200, I think. Yeah, 3,200 attack points. So its effect is once per chain, you can reduce this monster's attack by 800 to negate a monster effect. I don't think it destroys it, but luckily it says you can only control one Appaloosa on the field. So as we've seen with the real competitive players at tournaments, they can like summon possibly 3 Appaloosas if they wanted to, and just negate the opponent's monster effects.
But they can't because of the card.
It says you can only control one.
Yeah.
So we could have had another Firewall Dragon on our hands with that, but I think they kind of learned from that. But yeah, just upset that Firewall Dragon. It's just one of the strangest signature cards in the franchise.
Yeah.
And if you look at the intro for Yu-Gi-Oh! Evolving Season 2, remind me GX with Fire Dragon, like Bastions. We'll talk about that later. But in the intro for Yu-Gi-Oh! Evolving Season 2, we see like a shot with all 6 Code Talker monsters, which barely appear. Like even the Code Talker appears maybe 2 episodes, and then there's Firewall Dragon about to launch an attack, and kind of misleading because we barely see them, and Konami was trying to experiment with fusions, synchros, and even exceeders rather than sticking to link monsters. But I think what they were afraid of was the idea of extra linking, which you're familiar with that, aren't you? Yeah, so where you could just take up both extra monster zones, and yeah, like then your opponent can't do will have a tough time with the player that succeeds in extra linking. It just creates a I think Konami became afraid with that. Like even with the Nightmare cards, I don't know if you faced them, like Nightmare Goblin or
I have faced them, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that was completely busted, and then shortly after they banned Nightmare Goblin.
Yeah.
But yes, now we'll talk about the misleading intros, like Bastion's Fire Dragons. Remember that, don't you?
Yeah, and GX Bastion is got a Water Dragon and what we presume is a Fire Dragon in the start of the intro. So it's kind of a bit misleading that he's gonna use Fire Dragon at some point. But yeah, his character kind of gets a bit butchered, especially in the later seasons after his Society of Light arc, which goes nowhere. He just sort of flounders around, doesn't really add much to the plot.
Yeah, and I remember when was it the first Duelist pack that came out, and we both got really excited that Bastion's getting new support like Duo Terion. Yeah, and good news for you was they were dinosaur cards.
Yep. But no Fire Dragon, so
yeah,
unfortunate.
So who knows if we'll ever see Fire Dragon printed as an actual card, because I'm still surprised they printed was it Flying Elephant last year? That was a random card that some kid used against Bandit Keith in a flashback scene. And yeah, I don't think Flying Elephant was ever printed. No, it wouldn't, because they gave it completely different effects. And
Yeah.
oh man, like, just thinking about what goes on behind the scenes and what the writers initially planned, and then they had to change it for one reason or another, because like something's going on with the card game where some cards are too powerful, or cards like Black Wings are really popular, so we got to keep using Black Wings.
Yeah, I feel like the anime now is more affected by the real life card game, whereas like in the GX era, you know, cards like Pot of Greed were banned for ages, but they still remained in the anime.
Yeah, that's why we don't.
Although Monster Reborn was, like, aside from the second episode, almost never appeared, so they did follow some ban list rules, you know.
I suppose. Yeah, the ban list rules, that's something else. As we said with Firewall Dragon. And I'm trying to think if there's any other card. Ah, yes, Topologic Gumblar Dragon. So this card, I believe, when it's summoned, you can discard 2 cards from your opponent's hand, and if they have no cards in their hand, then they take 3,000 damage. I think that's what it does, but that got banned not too quickly, but it was yeah, like 2 ban lists later after it came out, because like if you start the duel where you summon Gumblar and make your opponent ditch 2 cards, then yeah, your opponent will have like 3 cards, or 4 cards in their hand when they start the duel, and in some ways that can unintentionally help out your opponent depending what kind of deck they use, because sometimes you want to get cards into the graveyard to special summon them, and then it was a weird it's a weird card, but yeah, like, I don't think Konami likes the idea of discarding your opponent's hand, because that's why Confiscation, that was actually in GX, I remember.
Yeah.
And this other card, Delinquent Duo, pay 1,000 life points, discard 2 cards from your opponent's hand. That's kind of similar with Gumblar. You can just activate a card to ditch 2 cards from your opponent's hand, and that card got banned, and yeah. Yeah, kind of goes with the whole experimentations of we'll have this card, discard your opponent's hand.
Yeah.
So it's weird, but now moving on, I'm going to talk about character treatment and designs. So I'm just going to get this out of the way quickly with the character Bowman, who was the main villain in Season 2. Like, this was his design when he first appeared. Like, look at this.
Yeah.
He looks like a gay gymnast. Like, what is this? This is the villain. We're supposed to be, like, intimidated or, like, feel the power of this destructible being. And to be fair, he did get a much better design.
Yeah.
Like, this is much better, but if you look closely, some reason on his face he's got these weird marking tattoos for some reason. Like, even his AI brother Haru, I don't think... Yeah, Haru doesn't have that.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what they were thinking with Bowman, but I think with Yu-Gi-Oh! Brain, some of the character designs were rushed, like the Goki player Go Nizuka. Like, you kind of made fun of his design as well with what's it called, the fez on top of his head?
Yeah, well, just his general appearance is pretty hilarious.
Yeah, like, he's got like baby doll eyes for some reason. That's not intimidating. And like his eyelashes too.
Yeah. No, they're going for eccentric design. Bowman does kind of remind me a little bit of like Darts and other characters as well, other antagonists. But
really,
no, I would agree he is less intimidating just by looks alone than the other ones that I just mentioned.
Yeah, so I think the fact it must have been, yeah, I think it was the second duel the second time Yusuke and Bowman faced each other that Bowman got his new design, which yeah, probably telling the producers going, what the hell is this? Like, what is this design? And the funny thing with Go Nizuka is, don't know if I can find an image, but when he first used Dino Wrestlers, he had like a visor to cover his eyes. So that's saying, like, even the producers behind the scenes, like, didn't like his eyes.
Yeah.
Because why else did they cover them up? Like, it's not like the visor actually helps Go Nizuka to duel or anything. But yeah, it's just telling when they come up with character designs that are flawed. And I think I've probably said that a lot of times now, but you can tell when they changed character designs for some characters, like even the staff behind the scenes are not happy with yeah. But I gotta say, one redesign but I'm not happy with is Revolver. So he was the villain in season 1. Now his first initial design, I think, is really awesome. Got the red hair, and he's got yellow eyes that don't have any pupils. That's pretty intimidating. But then, some reason in season 2 and onward, they change his eyes. They kind of look normal now, and his hair is gray. Like, I don't know why they had to change Revolver's design of all characters, because
probably to make him more personable and like more of a relatable character, like, you know, in terms of appearance, because that tends to help make people empathize with him.
He's still not necessarily a good guy. He's sort of like neutral. It's just like the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah, an anti-hero.
Yeah. So don't know what's up with these designs. I know Blue Angel had 3 designs, because Blue Angel, and then Blue Girl, like she was only Blue Girl for one duel. That was it. And now she's Blue Maiden. So I don't know what's up with that. Like, why did Blue Angel had to go through multiple designs like that? Like, Blue Girl was just nothing. Like, no, not doing this.
Yeah. Who knows?
So it's very weird, but honestly, I think, aside from Bowman, they should change Yusuke's design just so he looks like his, if you want to call it, a real life counterpart. Let's just bring it up. So Yusuke's design, I really like his real life design, his original form. And then there's the Playmaker design when he's in disguise, when he faces the Knights of Hanoi in the virtual reality. And I just think the other design is smarter looking. Like he's got the pink lightning bolts and the dark blue hair. Like, I just want to see like this design to be dueling and summoning all those Cybers cards. Yeah, the Playmaker design, I still remember when I first saw this, like, did they change his design at the last minute? And I mean, Yusuke is my favorite character in Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns, but I still wish they would just have him duel in his original form, and I don't know if they'll ever do that if like by the time Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns. And yeah, so honestly, I wish they just kept his original design and not his Playmaker design, because at this point he's not really trying to hide anymore, because a lot of people know who he is. Even I, who's turned evil now, like, there's no point, in my opinion, for Yusuke to have his Playmaker design. But I'm trying to think, was there anything else about? I'm trying to think if in past Yu-Gi-Oh! Generations, if there were ever like rushed character designs or something. I guess to be fair with the anime, is the animators, they do make good animations. Like even the CG, which I've been doing CG animation myself, and it would be a pain in the ass. Like not just animating, the animation's the easy part, but the rigging and see if it all works. All the CGI monster designs.
Yeah.
What do you think of Rush character designs and?
Well, honestly, I don't really have an opinion on it. I think that some of the characters are carbon copies of previous ones, in some ways.
To be fair, I do like the idea that Yu-Gi-Oh! Each generation introduces a new cast of characters, whereas Pokemon is just Ash throughout the whole time.
That's true. That is good. I think that some designs look appalling compared to others, and I don't know if you can put that down to rush character design or just poor aesthetic choice. But if it seems like a character was rushed, then I'd probably want it changed. But
yeah, and on that note, the Zark duel in Arc 5, the character Zark. I'm sure you know all about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of people really hate the ending to Arc 5 for a multitude of reasons, and one of them is Zark. And I've said it in a number of my videos that I haven't seen Arc 5, but I did watch the last 10 episodes when Zark appeared, and that's supposedly when the show just crashed and burned. And yeah, I remember when Zark was resurrected, he said, like, this is my original form, but he's like a demonic version of YuGiOh. Like, no, you're a human, Zark. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And why is he a demonic version of one of his 4 counterparts? Like, not Yuri, not YuGiOh. Who's the other guy? Yuto? I think Yuto is the one with Phantom Knights. But like, the Zark duel, a lot of people say it was completely rushed, and like, just the idea of a show that lasts more than 100 episodes and it comes down to making a baby smile.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god. So, with Yu-Gi-Oh! Brains, no idea what the ending will be like. I do like Season 3, like, way more than Season 2 right now. Does that mean Season 3 is going to be great? Is Yu-Gi-Oh! Brains going to have a good ending? Hard to say. You never know. You never, ever know.
Yeah. I wonder what the next anime series will be like and what the plot and synopsis will be.
I don't know if we'll ever get a good Yu-Gi-Oh! Series like Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. Because the fact they have to release an episode every week. Actually, about each generation, like, it used to be, I think, when they would take a break with the anime, it was only 2 weeks before they would jump to a new series. But with Yu-Gi-Oh! Brains, I think it was a month until they released the new series. Like, if they just took a year to think of the characters and the cards, what works, what doesn't work, and make it like the animation to be spectacular, like the show My Hero Academia, the fact they wait a year before they release the next season, and like My Hero Academia has incredible animation, like terrific action, and that's because the studio gives the animators their time to work on the show. And Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't have that privilege because they're also trying to promote a product at the same time.
Yeah, that's right.
So, I guess in general, there's what we call crunch, which has come out with video games lately, that a lot of developers are suffering crunch periods where they work overtime, and we don't know what it's like behind the scenes with Yu-Gi-Oh! As we said in our last video, with the artworks, the characters and stories, etc. So I'm surprised with the animation that it is pretty good, in my opinion. And the CGI monsters like Decode Talker and like oh gosh, I can't think. Yeah, Boral Sword, Boral Load, all those cards. Salaman Great Heatleo. Like it is amazing that they are able to do this, but I can't imagine the stress to keep up. Every week must release a new episode. I guess looking back on it, as annoying as recap episodes were, I would prefer like a recap maybe every 10 episodes, in all honesty, just so we have a good story at the very most. So overall, even though we have more recaps, then we could just skip them if we want to rewatch the series or any future Yu-Gi-Oh series. At least we'll remember the show as it had a good story, and remember all the duels and the action. And actually, here's an idea that I kind of saw in the first season of Yu-Gi-Oh! Brains, that they would have an episode where there weren't any dueling at all. It was just story and characters, and then the next episode would be like non-stop dueling.
Yeah.
Like, that would be terrific if they could do that. We'll talk about that in our solutions, how to fix Yu-Gi-Oh! I guess, anything you want to add, or shall we just jump to the conclusion of Yu-Gi-Oh? Like, how would we change?
No, yeah.
Okay. I just had a brain fart. What was I gonna say? The solution. Yes. So about what I just said, that for future Yu-Gi-Oh series, and maybe if they could deal with season 3 of Yu-Gi-Oh Reigns, that they have one episode where it's about just about the story and the characters doing their daily lives, or talking or explaining the plot, and then the next episode would be non-stop dueling. So you have a team of writers writing the characters' story, then you have another team of writers writing the dueling and promoting the Yu-Gi-Oh cards. That would be a good formula. But yeah, as I said, I would prefer if they did more recap episodes, just so we have a coherent story, and not like season 2 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Brains that had no idea what it was doing. And on the solutions topic, I think with Firewall Dragon, that if they gave Firewall Dragon an errata, then they could bring Firewall Dragon back. And yeah, I hope we do find out one day that of what kind of a role Firewall Dragon was going to play with in Yu-Gi-Oh! Brains. Because all there was, it was really interesting at first with the Data Storm, where Yusaku can grab a random Cybers card from the Data Storm, but then I think his name was Dr. Kogami, that when Yusaku accessed the Data Storm, he gives Yusaku Firewall Dragon for only for his son Revolver to take Firewall Dragon when Yusaku played it, and then use Firewall Dragon against Yusaku and defeat him. But that backfired, of course, and Yusaku obtained Firewall Dragon. And again, just something, like there had to have been something they had planned with Firewall Dragon, and if they played that card in the role, like Firewall Dragon got destroyed, or if it was taken by Bowman, and Firewall Dragon, being a Cybers card, had like the security code to the Ignis information or the data, like, yeah, just thinking about it makes me frustrated.
Yeah.
So I would love to see Yu-Gi-Oh! Take a 1-year hiatus at most. So we have a good anime. Not that Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns, to be fair, isn't all bad. Season 1 was good. I like first impressions of season 3 at the moment. Yeah, and you, Greg, don't watch a Yu-Gi-Oh! Evolving, so
No.
yeah, so that's why you haven't said much about it. But yeah, I say the card testers need more screen. I say the testers for Yu-Gi-Oh! Need more time with the cards, so we don't get cards like a broken signature card or Mystic Mine. Or even Soryuja Skull Dread, which is very problematic.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though that card hasn't appeared in the anime. But do you have any closing thoughts?
I just like a more mature and more well written out series for Yu-Gi-Oh! Because it's a bit too immature for me at the moment. Just like hard to watch. Some of the dialogue, at least in the dub, is
we don't talk about the dub.
Yeah, we don't talk about the dub. So just make it more of a mature anime series. That's more watchable, at least for me.
There was some of that in season 1 of Reigns with the Lost Incident and Yuzuku going through depression and his anti-social personality. Like Yuzuku was an anti-hero in a way. Like he would have his Ignis eye, like I'll wager eye if I can get the information off you, and like he's wagering like a character for a betting for his own personal
gain.
Yeah, for revenge on the Knights of Hanoi, which Yuzuku, you could argue, was the first anti-hero that we got as a main character.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why I like him. And there was a pattern for a while, like with Yu-Gi-Oh! The original series, it was kind of, let's face it, an adult, like the Pharaoh. He was an adult, then there was Jaden, who's like a kid, then Yusei, an adult, then Yuma, a child, but then Arc 5 kind of broke that with Yuya, like the same age as Yuma.
Yeah.
And Yuzuku was definitely more grown up, and yeah, I would like it to be more adult characters, more grown up characters in a future Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. Because now, with Yu-Gi-Oh! Been around for so long, a lot of fans would be in their adult years, whether it's their early 20s or 30s even.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's Yu-Gi-Oh! Fans in their 40s.
I'm sure there are.
There may be. But yeah, more adult characters, I would say. And I guess, come to think of it, now that they've experimented with virtual reality, do you think they would do a Yu-Gi-Oh! Series on time travel?
Maybe.
Like traveling to different time periods. And that could be another like attempt at Arc 5, shall we say, like going through time to the different generations and see like characters from GX 5Ds. That would be amazing. I don't know if they'll do that or if it will work, because I think Yu-Gi-Oh! 5 was very convoluted with all its characters, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns, I think, has a very small cast of characters in comparison. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see, and hopefully Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns will have a good third final season, and leave in the comments what you guys think of Yu-Gi-Oh! And how would you fix it, or how anything, what you think of the anime, or do you like Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns? Please comment in the comments below, and until next time, take care, mates.